Now I'll be reading a very familiar text, verse 46 to 52. Now they came to Jericho as he went out to Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude. Blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, what do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. Then Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Today I would like to speak to you from the topic, vision to follow. Vision to follow. Like I said, most of you are familiar with this text, and you have probably heard this text preached as the blind man being healed or faith to receive sight. But as I read this text, something stood out to me. Jesus asked the man, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? The man cried out for Jesus, and Jesus replied, what do you want me to do for you? This question is what I would like to call a blank check question. Jesus asked the man, what would you like me to do? The man has the opportunity to ask any question in the world. He could have asked Jesus anything, but he asked Jesus to receive sight. He asked Jesus to receive sight. As we are introduced to this man, we are introduced to him as having quite a few conditions. The first one being that he is blind, the next one being that he is a beggar. So he had the opportunity to ask God for sight, or the opportunity to ask God for money. Most of us today in church, we would ask God for the latter one. We would ask God to bless us with money. We would ask God to bless us with things as opposed to blessing us with his presence. We, from church people, have come too comfortable with asking God for things as opposed to asking God to do something in us, to do something for us. See, Bartimaeus, he did not ask God to make him feel better, but he asked God to make him better. The problem with church people is that we continue to ask God to make us feel better. We ask God to give us a husband. We ask God to give us a wife. We ask God to give us a new job. We ask God to give us a car, a house, give our children good health. But this man did not ask God for good things. He asked God for sight. He asked him for vision. A blank check question. Most of us, we want God to fix our emotional status as opposed to fixing our circumstances. Because guess what? If this man would have asked for money, at some point in time, the money could have run out. The money could have run out that very day. The money could have run out years from then. But the money would have eventually ran out. We have started to ask God for things that are temporary as opposed to asking God for something that's permanent. I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead. I'm getting too excited. So the man was accustomed to being on the side of the road every day begging. And I suppose he may have been begging with a cup in his hand, like most of the panhandlers we see in this community. In this community, there are many people on the side of the road begging with a cup in their hand. So there's people walking by every day, either bypassing him or someone that's just dropping the spare change that they have in their pocket in his cup. So each day he encounters people that give him something, but not give him what he needs. And most of us, we have surrounded ourselves around people that can give us something as opposed to people that can give us what we need. We need to find people that can change our circumstances as opposed to people that give us a temporary fix. See, this man sat there. The text doesn't tell us how long he sat there. But the fact is that he sat there and people gave him but did not change him. How many of you have some people around you that continue to give but don't change you? How many of you have people around that you ask them for things, but at the end of the day, you go home the same way you came? So he understood that there was someone that can give him more than what he'd been asking for each day. Someone that can give him more. But before we jump to the receiving your vision, I want to inform you or show you from the text that there's 3 things or 3 steps that you must go through in order to receive vision. The first one being, do not become subject to the labels that people are placing on you. See, we are introduced to a man, and when he is introduced, he's introduced as, 1, being a blind man. 2, he has his father's name, which is Bartimaeus, which Bar means the son of. So he does not even have his own identity within his own name. So he's blind, and he has his father's name, plus he's a beggar. He's blind, he has his father's name, and he's a beggar. I need you to get this. He's blind, he has his father's name, and he's a beggar. See, the reason why he was at the side of the road is because people who are blind, that's where you found them at in that period of time. People who are blind, they were found on the side of the road. So when you allow people to label you, you also allow people to place you. So if he's labeled as a blind man, he also has to be in the position of a blind person. So not only is he labeled just blind, but he's also in the position where blind people would be. So when we allow people to label us, when we allow people to give us titles, not only do we become subjected to the name, but we also become subjected to the place that the name represents. Because don't get it confused, people can name you something, but once you accept the name that someone has given to you, there's a place that is also attached to the name that is given to you. There's a place attached to the name. So when someone calls you poor, not only will you be poor, but you will find yourself in the place with other poor people. Because of the labels that you have accepted from people. We cannot be, as Christians, able to sit there and say, this is what someone has called me. No, we need to figure out what God has called us, not a label that a man has given us. Because once we accept the label that someone has given us, we also accept the destiny or the future that is attached to that label. Not only is there a place attached to a label, but there's also a destiny attached to it as well. So Bartimaeus could have been a man that sat and accepted the fact that he's blind. Accepted it. Accepted the fact that he's blind. So the first thing, you must live above the labels. Live above the labels. And see, what we have to really understand is that the reason why people may label us to begin with is because of their own insecurities that they need to place upon you. Their own insecurities. Their own insecurities. So be careful of who labels you, because whoever labels you also have the permission to place you. Whoever labels you has the permission to also place you. Be careful of accepting the labels that people give you. The next thing, use your resources. Use your resources. Ashton, pull up verse 47, please. Use your resources. And when he heard, he cried out and said. When he heard, he said. The blind man heard and then he said. I need you to catch this. The blind man, he heard and then he said. Use your resources. This blind man, while he was blind, while he did not have sight, he had his resources being his ears and his mouth. So while Jesus was present, he did not fall victim to him being blind, but he was able to use his ears and his mouth to communicate to the one that had something to give to him. But many of us, we fall victim to what we do not have, and we forget about the things that we still have within us. I remember the Players Club movie said sometimes you got to use what you got to get what you want. You got to use what you have utilized inside of you to get God to bless you. But some of us, we fall victim to our bodies being broken, to whatever the situation may be, to us being divorced, to us our kids not being in order. But you got to use the resources that God has given you in order to reach out to him and grab him. But believers nowadays, we have become stuck on what we do not have. We find ourselves always complaining and saying what we don't have, as opposed to looking deep within and finding the things that God did not take away from us. We got to use the resources that we still have in order to reach God. There's some things that each and every one of us have that God did not take away from us. So while the man was blind, he still had his greatest weapon. The power of life and death is in the tongue. So while they want to focus on him being blind, he still has the opportunity to speak. Not only does he have the opportunity to speak, he has the opportunity to ask Jesus. He has the opportunity to give life to his situation or circumstance. So most of us here, yes, we may not all be educated. Yes, we may not all have money. Yes, we may not all have a car or a great job or a home to call our own. But we have the opportunity to use our voice to call upon Jesus when he's right there. We have the opportunity to use something else that we do not have. While other people may sit and other people may brag and say, I got this and you don't. Well, guess what? I have my mouth. Guess what? I can still call upon Jesus. Guess what? He told me if I ask. All we have to do is ask. All we have to do is ask. So we have to use our resources. See, as young men, sometimes we like to look at older individuals and sit there and say, I'm not as wise as this person, but guess what? You have strength. Some of you older individuals, you may sit there and say, I'm not as strong as I used to be, but guess what? You have wisdom. So why can't you use the things that's available to you? There's some things that have not been taken away from us that we still have within our very own being in order to bless God, in order to ask God for whatever we need. But we become locked up, shackled, binded by the things we do not have. Not only that, but we sometimes even curse God for the things we do not have. We become jealous, we become envious of other people because of the things we do not have. But guess what? The sad thing is in this text is that it says, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth. When he heard it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David. He heard it was Jesus of Nazareth and cried out, Jesus, son of David. Which means to tell me that he saw more than even the people around him which have sight saw. Because while they saw Jesus of Nazareth, they saw Jesus from his natural or original birthplace, he was able to identify Jesus, the son of David. And the only person that could have revealed this to him was God. So he already has vision without having sight, while those around him have sight and they lack vision. Because Jesus, being the son of David, the Old Testament prophet told us that Jesus must come from the lineage of David. He must also come from the lineage of Abraham. If you turn to the gospel according to Matthew, the first thing that it states is, it says the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So while the people that were able to see naturally identified Jesus as Jesus of Nazareth, he was able to go a little deeper, a little further into his spirit and identify Jesus as the son of David. So even though he was blind and he utilized his hearing and his mouth, he was also blind naturally, but utilized his supernatural vision. So verse 48 says the people warned him to be quiet. The people warned him to be quiet. Because saying Jesus, son of David, is doing something that the rest of us can't do. You're able to identify who he truly is, but we can't see that. So the next thing you must do after you live above the labels and use your resources, you must push past the resistance. See, he cried out. He cried out. He cried out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Then they warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Don't let anyone stop you from pushing to Jesus. He pushed past the resistance. A man that used to yell out for money is now yelling out for Jesus. Because when the King of Glory shows up, we forget about our past circumstances and focus on the future. See, this man had no other choice but to beg, because he understood that the people around him could not do anything else for him but give him money. So he led a life of begging. He led a life of being on the side of the road begging, because he had no choice. Because if he would have asked anyone else for sight, he would have never received it. So we have to be able to understand who can give us what. But when the greater individual shows up, we ask for what the others cannot give us. So then when he pushed past the resistance, he said, what, Jesus, what do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, I want to receive sight. I want to be able to see. I want to be able to see. Vision to follow. I want to be able to see. I'm tired of being limited. I'm tired of only going places that I'm familiar with. Because a blind individual, they find themselves in or areas of which they feel comfortable in, because they are limited in the things that they can do. So blind people, you find them in the same position, in the same spot at all times, because their sight is limited for them to do more. So they cannot go further than what they know. So if you wonder why some people are stuck in the same situation they've been in for so long, it's because they're blind. They have no vision. They have no direction. So don't get envious of the person that may have earthly or worldly possessions that you find in the same position of their life at all times. They might have things, but they don't have peace. They might have things, but they don't have joy. They might have things, but they don't have love. We cannot find ourselves envious of the individuals that have things, but don't have inner peace within them. So Jesus said, verse 52, Jesus said, go your way. Your faith has made you well. Go your way. So Jesus restores his sight, and then he tells him to go his way. He asked him to restore his sight. Jesus restored his sight. Then Jesus said, now you have sight, go your way. You can now see. You have the opportunity to go wherever you want to go. You now have vision. You now have clarity. You now have direction to go.
as we close off this year of, of expansion and maturity, God is going to expand the vision that some of you have. He is going to allow ministries to grow, ministries to come forth from some of you here. And when he expands the vision, we have an opportunity to do certain things or go certain directions, because he has expanded our sight. He has expanded our scope of view. So Jesus expanded Bartimaeus' sight. He expanded his scope of view. He expanded his direction. But the thing that had my mind in the loop is, it said immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus. A blind man who was limited in what he was able to do took the opportunity to continue or to now follow Jesus. I would have thought that a person that was blind and limited in the things that they were able to do or the places that they were able to go would not now limit themselves to the following of another person. But he continued to still limit himself, because while he still had sight, he limited the direction that he was going in order to follow Jesus. So not only did he have limitations on him with his sight, then the limitations were taken off, and then he placed limitations on him once again. Because in order to follow someone, we limit ourselves to the places that the person we are following goes. True obedience to the vision that God has given you is when God takes off the limitations and restrictions of your life and you still follow him. See, God sometimes gives some of us the opportunity to go in any direction we choose to go in, because he removes the restrictions. But your true blessing comes when you sit there and say, I know what I want to do, but I'm still going to follow Christ. Because guess what? The one that gave him the vision, the one that gave him sight, is the same one that can give him whatever else he needs if anything else comes up in his life. But some of us, we quickly run into the presence of God. We quickly ask God to do something for us, and then we depart from his presence, because we feel as if whatever the condition previously was is now taken care of. But some of us need to stay close to Jesus as possible, because there's a possibility that something else can happen to us. See, Bartimaeus, he understood that there was a point in time in my life where man could not do something for me. But I must hold on to the one that can. See, some of us would have received our sight and then went back to the same very people that couldn't do a thing for us. We run to God when it's an opportunity for us. We seek God when there's an opportunity for us. And then we go back to doing the same exact thing we used to do. We go to hanging around the same exact people we used to hang around with. We go to having the same connections that we used to have. But this man was able to understand. He was able to sit there and say, I am tired. I am tired of having people around me. I am tired of being connected with people. I am tired of having company with individuals that keep me in the same condition. Some of us need sight or vision in order to follow Christ. Because when he shows up in our life, we either, one, are not in the position to receive him, or if we do receive him, we only receive him for a short period of time. He is a person of convenience as opposed to a person of necessity. Some of us have placed Jesus as a person of convenience instead of a person of necessity. When you encounter Jesus, when he does something for you, it's not for you to soak up what he has given you or soak up what he has done for you, but it's for you to understand who he is. It's for you to understand that he is indeed the Son of David, for you to understand that he is indeed the King of glory, for you to understand that he is indeed the Lion of the tribe of Judah, so you can follow his direction, so you can follow him wherever he goes. When he expands your vision, when he expands your ministry, when he gives you the opportunity to see, when he gives you the opportunity to broaden your sight, it's for you to stay on the path of Jesus. It's for you to follow him. It's for you to follow his footsteps. It's not for you to do whatever you want to do. It's not for you to go back to where you came from, but it's for you to follow Christ. Jesus does not do something for you to then abandon him. So in order for you to receive vision, we must live above the labels. Use our resources and push past the resistance. And let me give you this key point. You know you're close to God blessing you when you have resistance. You know you're close to God blessing you when there is resistance in your life. This man sat by the road begging. In the moment he was in the presence of Jesus, the very moment he took the opportunity to say, I'm not going to be stuck in this situation, the moment he took the opportunity for God to bless him is the moment he encountered resistance. If you ever want to know if your blessing from God is on the way, check the resistance that you have in your life. Resistance comes to your life when God is about to bless you. So whenever resistance comes, do not curse God. Do not pray that the resistance leave, but know that a blessing is about to come upon your life. Know that God is about to release something or give something to you that no one else can give you. Know that God is about to change your circumstance. Know that God is about to change your situation around when you receive resistance, when there are people that are trying to block you from your blessing, when there are people trying to stop you from touching Jesus, when there are people trying to stop you from encountering the glory or presence of God. Know that your blessing is just around the corner. So today I encourage you to push past the resistance, push past the crowds of people that have negative things to say to you, push past the labels that people place on you, push past the names that people call you, push past, look at what you have within as opposed to what you don't have, and I guarantee that your blessing from God is on the way. push past the resistance. Push past. Because when you push past the resistance, the things you used to ask for will change. The things you used to yell out or cry out to God for will change. You will no longer be crying out for things, but you will be crying out for His presence. God is ready for His people to stop crying, to stop asking for things, but to seek His presence. To seek His presence. That's all He wants from us, is to seek His presence. All of us are not where we want to be. All of us may not be where we imagined ourselves at this point. Some of us have 5-year, 10-year goals, whatever it may be. We have things that we expected in 2015. But as long as you yearn for the presence of God, He gives you what you need and not what you want. He gives you what you need and not what you want. He gives you what you need and not what you want. His presence. That's all we need in this place, is His presence. To seek His presence. Let us stand right now and seek the presence of the Lord. Wherever you find yourself at today, whatever situation or circumstance you may find yourself in today, whatever labels you may find yourself subjected to today, just seek His presence. Just ask for His presence, and He shall turn your situation around. He shall turn your situation around. He shall turn your circumstance around. Because there are many people in this place, even today, right where you are, that you call your very own brother and your sisters. Trust and believe they have labels on you. Trust and believe they do not look at you at all times and see what God has called you. Trust and believe they are still looking at you with their narrow-minded eyes. And they are still calling you a fornicator. They are labeling you as a divorcee. They are labeling you as someone that had a child out of wedlock. They are labeling you as someone that's uneducated. But today I'm here to remind you that God has called you something that the labels did not. God has called you holy. God has called you righteous. God has called you worthy of His glory. God has called you a person that has power in this earth. God has said that you have dominion over your circumstance. God has said that He has given you the same glory that He has. So even though the people may label you, and they may call you all manners of names, Even as the people named Bartimaeus blind, he remembered that healing is the children's bread. So as long as you believe, as long as you believe, as long as you believe, you shall be made well. You shall be made well. So right now, just reach out for God. He wants to do something for someone here today. I don't know who it is. I don't know what you've been asking God for. But while he's here, just cry out for him. See, Bartimaeus did not just call out, but the text says that he cried out to Jesus. He cried out. He cried out. He did not just call, but he cried. See, a cry comes from a place of desperation. A cry comes from a place of being sick and tired of where you've been. A cry comes from a place of being fed up. A cry comes from a place of being weary. A cry comes from a place of being burdened with circumstances. A cry comes from a place of desiring a change to occur. So the text says that he cried out. He began to cry, Jesus, have mercy on me. Jesus, have mercy on me. As long as you cry out for him, you will not go back the same way you came. It doesn't matter who's in your company, who's in your midst, saying that it does not take all of that, that all of that is not necessary. Cry out, and he shall restore you. Cry out, and he shall put your life back on course to follow him. Put your hands together for the Lord today. Put your hands, if you've been blessed on this day, put your hands together for the Lord. Put your hands together for Jesus Christ for blessing you today. Put your hands together for the Lord speaking to you today. Glory to God. Glory to God. He gives us vision in whatever capacity of our life there may be. He expands your sight. He expands the scope of this ministry for our apostle to follow him. To follow him. To follow him.